very good evening to you and welcome to Newsfirst's Primetime News on TV1. My name is Krishan Devasagaya.
And I'm Vinaji Sinaviratna.
Tonight, Christians across Sri Lanka and the world prepare to observe the pinnacle of the liturgical calendar as Easter Sunday celebrations will commence at the stroke of midnight. Now on Easter Sunday, Christians celebrate the resurrection of Jesus Christ 3 days after his death. It is a day that symbolizes renewal, reminding millions around the world of the power of faith, forgiveness, and new beginnings. Now, beyond its religious significance, Easter carries a universal message of resilience and the promise of life after hardship.
Devotees will gather at churches and cathedrals nationwide for Easter vigils at midnight and Easter Sunday masses at dawn. In the capital of Colombo, the Cathedral of Christ, the Living Saviour, is set to host a special mass at 11:30 p.m. tonight and 8:30 a.m. tomorrow to mark Easter Sunday. Meanwhile, His Eminence Cardinal Malcolm Ranjith will preside over the main festive High Mass at St. Lucia's Cathedral in Kotahena.
Now, for those celebrating from home, Sirasa TV will bring the spiritual experience to your living room with a live broadcast of the Easter service from the Church of Our Lady of Good Health Marbole at 7:30 a.m. tomorrow. Now, in a world facing many ongoing challenges and conflicts on many fronts, Easter Sunday offers a timely reminder that light can emerge even after the darkest of days. And on that note, let's take a look at tonight's headlines.
The United States continues search for missing airmen from downed F-15 aircraft. Iran offers a bounty of $60,000 to anyone who captures the missing American airman. Lives of patients at risk as GMOA launches another continuous strike. GMOA on strike 15 times in 12 months. A revelation from health professionals. Don't take the lives of patients hostage by getting aggrieved at administrative decisions that are made legally. A request from the Minister of Health.
හොඳම දේ මේ ජනතාව පැත්තක තියලා මට විරුද්ධව අධිකරණයට යන එක.
Duration of water cuts in certain areas of Colombo reduced. Gamman Pillar's book on the mastermind of the Easter attacks is a bankrupt political project. Mujibur Rahman confirms opposition leaders' attendance at the event.
And in your top story tonight, it is the conflict in the Middle East. United States and Iranian forces are searching for a missing American crew member after a US warplane was shot down. Now, Iranian security forces are searching the region for the airman, while officials in the country are urging citizens to find him alive and are offering rewards for his capture.
US and Iranian forces are searching for a missing American crew member after a US warplane was shot down. The missing airman, a weapons systems officer, was aboard a US F-15 fighter jet that was downed in southern Iran. It is still not known what has become of the missing crew member. US media reported that a pilot who was also on board has been rescued. Iranian security forces are searching the region for the airman, while officials in the country are urging citizens to find him alive and are offering a bounty of $60,000 for his capture. In a separate incident, Iran says it has shot down a second American warplane over the Gulf. US media report an A-10 Warthog was shot at during the mission to find the first downed aircraft. The pilot reportedly ejected over the Gulf and has since been rescued. Iran's Revolutionary Guard Corps said it was combing a southwestern area near to the area where the pilot's plane was downed, while the regional governor has promised a commendation for anyone who captured or killed forces of the hostile enemy. The incidents show the risk still facing US and Israeli aircraft over Iran, despite assertions by President Donald Trump and his Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth that US forces had total control of the skies. The Pentagon has formally added Operation Epic Fury to the Defense Casualty Analysis System, marking the first time verified US military casualty figures from this campaign are publicly accessible in the Department of Defense's official database. DCAS now records 13 US service members killed and 365 wounded, with figures distributed across all service branches. The fate of the ceasefire proposal. Meanwhile, an unnamed source told Iran's semi-official fast news agency on Friday that Tehran had rejected a US proposal for a 48-hour ceasefire. The source said the proposal was made on Wednesday through another country which was not named. There was no immediate comment or confirmation from the United States. Navigation through the Strait of Hormuz. A French container ship, 3 Oman-linked tankers and a Japanese-owned gas carrier have crossed the Strait of Hormuz as some vessels make the passage through the highly contested waterway. The Times of India reported that a 7th India-flagged LPG tanker, Green Sunri, crossed the Strait of Hormuz on Friday. So far, 6 vessels carrying LPG have reached Indian ports after crossing the strait since the war broke out in West Asia. Latest on Iran-Israel strikes. The UAE Ministry of Defense says air defense systems have responded to 23 ballistic missiles and 56 drones launched from Iran today, the 4th of April. Since the start of the war, it has dealt with 498 ballistic missiles, 23 cruise missiles and 2,141 drones. The statement on X confirmed that Iranian attacks have resulted in the deaths of 2 Emirati soldiers and 1 Moroccan contractor. 10 civilians from Pakistan, Nepal, Bangladesh, Palestine, India and Egypt have also been killed, with 217 people wounded since hostilities began. In Israel, the Israeli military says more missiles have been launched from Iran towards its territory. The military said air defense systems were operating to intercept the attack. In another post on X, Iranian Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi warns that US and Israeli strikes near the Bushehr nuclear plant today pose significant risks to Iran and the wider Gulf region. Araghchi said the Bushehr facility had been hit 4 times and he criticized what he described as a lack of concern for its safety, especially when compared with the attention given to Ukraine's Zaporozhye nuclear power plant. Meanwhile, Iranian state TV said US-Israeli airstrikes targeted multiple locations in Iran's capital Tehran, including Mehrabad International Airport and Shahid Baheshti University. Making an address on the US-Israel-Iran conflict and its impact on the Middle East, UN Secretary-General Antonio Guterres warned that the blockade of maritime routes like the Strait of Hormuz is causing severe economic impacts on countries like Sri Lanka.
The Middle East crisis has lurched into its 2nd month. Every day this war continues, human suffering grows, the scale of devastation grows, indiscriminate attacks grow, the target of civilians and civilian infrastructure grows, and the perils to our world grow. We are on the edge of a wider war that would engulf the whole Middle East with dramatic impacts around the globe. The conflict is already being felt everywhere. Look no further than the impact of the denial of freedom of navigation. When the Strait of Hormuz is strangled, the world's poorest and most vulnerable cannot breathe. We see it in the daily lives of people struggling with rising food and energy costs, from the Philippines to Sri Lanka to Mozambique to communities far beyond. Many aspects of the conflict may be uncertain, but one thing is not. If the drums of war keep beating, escalation will only make all of these worse. The spiral of death and destruction must stop. Diplomatic efforts are underway to find a peaceful path forward. They deserve the space and support to succeed, anchored firmly in international law, including the UN Charter. Disputes must be settled peacefully. The sovereignty and territorial integrity of all member states must be respected. Civilians and civilian infrastructure, including nuclear installations, must be respected and protected. And freedom of navigation must be upheld. I remain in close contact with the parties, and I'm dispatching my personal envoy, Jean Arnaud, to the region to support these efforts. We must find a peaceful way out. My message is clear to the United States and Israel. It's high time to stop the war that is inflicting immense human suffering and already triggering devastating economic consequences. To Iran, to stop attacking their neighbors. The Security Council has condemned these attacks and reaffirmed the need to respect navigational rights and freedoms along critical maritime routes, including the Strait of Hormuz. Conflicts do not end on their own. They end when leaders choose dialogue over destruction. That choice still exists and must be made now. Thank you.
As tensions between Iran, Israel and the United States continue to grow, the world is facing a deepening energy crisis. Even today, crude oil prices in the global market were recorded at significantly high levels.
Today, the price of a barrel of Brent crude in the British market was recorded at $109. Meanwhile, in the US WTI market, a barrel of crude oil was priced at $111.05. As oil prices continuously stay above the $100 mark, many countries around the world continue to face a deepening energy crisis. Pakistan is facing the worst fuel price hike in its history. Last Thursday, the Pakistani government increased fuel prices by a massive 54%, leading to widespread public protests across the country. Despite this, there has been no reduction in the high price of diesel. In addition to the fuel price hike, power cuts of 12 to 14 hours are being implemented across Pakistan. Thailand. Due to the war in the Middle East, Thailand is also facing the most severe energy crisis in its history. Following the rise in global oil prices and supply disruptions, the price of diesel in Thailand has tripled. Since Thailand's transport and industrial sectors depend heavily on diesel, the price hike has directly impacted the cost of essential goods and services. Alongside fuel costs, electricity tariffs have reached record highs and the government has issued strict guidelines for the public to conserve energy. Vietnam. With the rise in fuel prices, Vietnam's economic growth has slowed down. Inflation has risen to 5.2% due to the increasing costs of food and services. South Korea. South Korea has proposed a supplementary budget of 26.2 trillion won specifically to cope with this crisis. Indonesia. Indonesia has introduced a fuel quota of 50 litres per vehicle. They have also implemented a work-from-home policy on Fridays to reduce energy consumption.
In another headline-making story, the National Water Supply and Drainage Board states that the 18-hour water cut currently in effect in several areas of the Colombo district will be reduced to a period of between 8 and 12 hours starting from tomorrow.
The National Water Supply and Drainage Board has announced a further reduction in the duration of water cuts in the areas of Paduka, Homagama, Palanwatha and Pannipitiya in the Colombo district, effective from tomorrow. Under this revised plan, these areas will be divided into 4 zones, with the water supply being suspended starting at 8 p.m. Following a single day's suspension, the supply to one of the zones will remain uninterrupted for the next 4 days before the next scheduled cut. Meanwhile, the 3-hour water suspension from 10 p.m. to 1 a.m. on alternate days will continue for Pamankada, Bathramulla, Valawatha and Navala. This management strategy aims to ensure maximum water conservation due to the rapidly declining water levels in the Labugama and Kalatuava reservoirs.
We decided to limit the restrictions to only a few selected areas, specifically certain areas within Paduka, Homagama, Maharagama, Pannipitiya, Piliyandala and Casbava in the Colombo district. We are not implementing water restrictions in the Colombo city or other areas.
Will there be a change to the prevailing hot weather?
Compared to the past few days, we are expecting somewhat heavy showers today. There is a possibility of rainfall exceeding 75 millimeters in some places within the Sabaragamuwa, Central, Uva, North Central and Eastern provinces. Regarding the nature of these rains, a large amount of precipitation will fall within a very short period. However, these rains will be accompanied by temporary strong winds and lightning hazards.
Meanwhile, it is said that extreme heat conditions may occur from the 5th of April until the 15th due to the sun being positioned directly over Sri Lanka.
The Government Medical Officers Association has decided to recommence their strike action from 8 a.m. today, protesting against the process of carrying out transfers. Meanwhile, other health sector trade unions allege that the GMOA has carried out 15 trade union actions over the past 12 months. The Government Medical Officers Association previously engaged in strikes last Tuesday and Thursday. These actions were in protest against the current process of transfers for doctors. The GMOA launched another strike today centered on the same demands. However, due to the ongoing strike action, patients arriving at hospitals across the country today were once again severely inconvenienced.
හරි අමාරු තුවාල කැක්කුමයි. පාන්දර 4ට ආවේ පොලිමට. 8 වෙනකන් ඉඳලා දැන් කියනවා ડોක්ටර්ලා එන්න ලබන සතියේ දාදා හරි සෙනසුරාදා එන්න කියලා.
වෛද්‍යවරු කියන්නේ මේ රටේ ජනතාවගේ බදු මුදල් වලින් විද්‍ය වෘත්තිය ඉගෙනගෙන මේකට ශේෂ්ත්‍රයට ආවේ අය. ඉතින් එතෙන්දී ජනතාවට වගේ කියන්න ඕනේ, ජනතාවට ගෞරව කරන්න ඕනේ. මොකද ජනතාව බදු මුදල් වලින් ඉගෙන ගත්ත නිසාම.
දැන් මේ ડોක්ටර්ලාට කියන්නේ උදේ පාන්දර ඉඳන් ඇවිල්ලා රස්තියාදු වෙලා මං තනියම ඉන්නේ ගෙදර. ඒ ඇවිල්ලා මත් බෙහෙත් ටිකක් අරගන්න දැන මේ මෙහෙම කරන එක හොඳ නෑ ડોක්ටර්ලා අපිට.
ස්ට්‍රයික් එක. අදත් ස්ට්‍රයික් මිනිස්සු ඔය ඇවිල්ලා හැරිලා යන්නේ.
ආයි පොත්වල නෙලා ස්ට්‍රයික් කරනවා පස්සේ එන්න කියලා තමයි කියන්නේ.
බෙහෙත් දෙන්න බැරිලු දොස්තර මහත්තයා නැහැ කියලා මේකට බෙහෙත් දාන්න බැරිලු. ඒක බලන්න කවුරුත් නැල්ලු.
පාන්දර 5ට ආවේ. ඉතින් කියන ડોක්ටර්ලා එන්නේ නැහැ කියලා අපිට යන්න කීවා දැන්.
මට දැන් දවස් 4ක් විතර කකුලේ අමාරු. අද ස්ට්‍රේ එකක් ගන්න කියලා ආවේ. ඉතින් ස්ට්‍රේ එකක් ගන්න දාද ස්ට්‍රයික් කියනවා ඉතින්.
මම හමුදාවේ හිටියේ වෙඩි වැදිලා. මගේ දරුවාට බෙහෙත් ටිකක් ගන්න මං ආවේ. ඉතින් බෙහෙත් දෙන්න නැත්නම් ඉතින් අපි මොකද කරන්නේ? මේ මිනිස්සුන්ට රජයෙන් පඩි ගෙවනවානේ. ගෙවන පඩියටවත් සාධාරණයක් වෙන්න මිනිස්සුන්ට වැඩ කරන්න එපා. පෙරේදාත් ස්ට්‍රයික් දැන් දවස් 3ක්නේ. ඉතින් මේ දරුවෝ පව්. අම්මලා පව්. හරිද අපිට රට දාති වෙනුවෙන් දුක් ඉඳලා නේද? මේ දේවල් අපි කරන්නේ අපේ දරුවෝ වෙනුවෙන්. ඉතින් මේ දේවල් කරගන්න බැරි වැඩක් නැහැනේ. රජයෙන් පඩි ගෙවනවානේ මේ මිනිස්සුන්ට. ගෙවන්න නැතුව නම් කමක් නැහැ.
අහිංසක දුප්පත් මිනිස්සු තමයි ඉතින් තැලෙන්නේ මොනා කරලා හරි නේද? අපේ බදු සල්ලි මේ යාලා පඩි ගන්නෙ. දැන් යන්න 1000යි එන්න 1000යි 2000යි. අය දවසකුත් අය 2000ක් වියදම් කරන්න එන්න ඕනේ.
ඉතින් උන්ගේ ඉල්ලින් දිනා ගන්න මේ ලෙඩ්ඩු මරනවානේ ඒකනේ වැඩි.
දුරකතර ගෙවාගෙන බස් වියදම් කරගෙන දැන් බස් වලට ගණන් වැඩි. තෙල් වියදම් වැඩි. ඒ හැම දෙයක්මත් කරගෙන අපි මෙතෙන් එනකොට මේ යාලා ස්ට්‍රයික්. කවුරුත් එකයි ඔක්කොම මිනිස්සු පණ තියෙන මිනිස්සු නේද? දැන් මෙතන අම්මලා කී දෙනෙක් ඉන්නවා පොඩි දරුවෝ අරගෙන කී දෙනෙක් ඉන්නවද? ඇයි එහෙම කරන්නේ?
Meanwhile, the GMOA decided this evening to indefinitely continue the strike that they launched this morning.
මේ ප්‍රශ්නය තව දුර ගිහිල්ලා.
Do not let this issue drag on and become more grave, and do not try to collapse the health system. Therefore, we ask you to open the doors for negotiation. We are ready to talk. We will not allow this injustice against our members to stand. The Executive Committee decided today that the GMOA will not hesitate to take any professional action necessary. Whether these trade union actions end tomorrow or continue further depends entirely on the decisions you make.
වෘත්තීය සමිති ක්‍රියාමාර්ග ඉදිරියට ක්‍රියාත්මක වෙනවාද කියන කාරණය තීරණය වෙන්නේ ඔබ ගන්නා තීරණ මතයි.
Meanwhile, the Association of Medical Specialists who are not supporting the strike, initiated by the Government Medical Officers Association, states that their policy is not to cause distress to patients in order to get their demands addressed.
අපි කවුරුත් වැඩ වර්ජනය නැහැ.
None of us are on strike. We are continuing to carry out our duties as usual, with specialist medical services being maintained without interruption in hospitals. We have not participated in any strike over the past few days, nor are we taking part now. Postgraduate training doctors who are future specialists are also not on strike. As the majority of general grade medical officers have not joined the strike, we have been able to function effectively as a team and ensure uninterrupted patient care. It is not our policy to engage in strike actions that cause inconvenience to patients in order to achieve our demands.
වැඩ වර්ජන කරන එක අපේ ප්‍රතිපත්තියක් නෙමෙයි.
Meanwhile, the Association of Medical Specialists who are not supporting the strike, initiated by the Government Medical Officers Association, states that their policy is not to cause distress to patients in order to get their demands addressed.
None of us are on strike. We are continuing to carry out our duties as usual, with specialist medical services being maintained without interruption in hospitals. We have not participated in any strike over the past few days, nor are we taking part now. Postgraduate trainee doctors who are the future specialists are also not on strike. As the majority of general grade medical officers have not joined the strike, we have been able to function effectively as a team and ensure uninterrupted patient care. It is not our policy to engage in strike actions that causes inconvenience to patients in order to achieve our demands. The Joint Council of Allied Health Professionals says that the Government Medical Officers Association is carrying out this strike with a political motive.
The Government Medical Officers Association has gone on strike about 15 times in the past. No profession within the health service has the authority to influence such appointments. There are more than 70 trade unions in the health service, and none of them has that right. Moreover, given the current war, A certain emergency situation has arisen in the country. We are aware that there are several failed trade unions. We clearly see that by joining forces with these failed trade unions and forming a coalition, their actions are intended to pressure the government rather than address a violation of any legal right. When Cyclone Ditwa struck, they also went on strike. Whenever there is an emergency or inconvenience affecting the people and the economy, they use these situations to escalate tensions and create the groundwork to oppose the government. This is clearly political. Considering their relationship and trade union alliances, this essentially is a political battle.
ඔවුන්ගේ සම්බන්ධතා ටික සහ ඔවුන්ගේ වෘත්තීය සමිති සම්බන්ධතා ටික බලපුවාම ඇත්තටම මේක දේශපාලන සටනක් තමයි.
Minister of Health Dr. Nalinda Jayatissa says that if the allegations related to the strike by the GMOA are legal, they should go to court without taking the patients hostage.
There is no basis for this strike. Currently, a very high number of post-internship doctors have applied to join the government service. This small group tried to intimidate those doctors, but it did not succeed. In fact, I would like to make a request to the group that is leading the strike by the Government Medical Officers Association. There are hundreds of thousands of innocent people in our country who are seeking medical treatment. Do not use them as hostage or human shields. You are saying that giving these post-internship appointments is illegal and that there is a transfer board for that, and that is what is stated in the establishment code. The best thing is to leave these innocent patients aside and go to court against me.
හොඳම දේ මේ ජනතාව පැත්තක තියලා මට විරුද්ධව අධිකරණයට යන්නේ.
තවත් චෝදනාවක් තමයි මේ බලපෑම් වෙනවා පුරපාඩු ලයිස්තුවට නම් ඇතුළත් කරන්න කියලා. ඒක බලපෑමක් තියෙනවද?
ඔව් දැන් සෙනසුරාදා දවල් වෙනකන් විතරයි මේ පශ්චාත් සීමාවාසික වෛද්‍යවරුන්ට අයදුම්කම් ලබා දීලා තියෙනවා.
Yes, now these post-internship doctors have been given time to apply only until Saturday afternoon. Those who do not apply will be given an opportunity in the next batch. That means that appointments are scheduled to be made to a group of 1,300 in a few months. It is not me who decides whether those who fall out of this group of 1,300 can apply or not, but the Public Service Commission. The few who do not apply will be left at the end of that 1,300. After the post-internship list is published, we will give a date and they should report for duty on a certain date. After reporting for duty on that date, they will get their salary structured based on their new duty station. Then if someone does not apply to join the government service as a post-intern doctor and remains in their same station as an RHO, even after the internship, they will not get their salary after this date as they have not applied for the post-internship. So their duty ends there. What is only necessary is to send the letter based on a suitable date. Now the Secretary of the Ministry of Health is preparing the letter.
මේ ගැළපෙන දිනය අනුව ලියුම යවන්නේ විතරයි. දැන් සෞඛ්‍ය අමාත්‍යාංශ ලේකම්වරයා ලියුම සකස් කරමින් පවතිනවා.
Newsfirst with the people. From Gambetta, 3 projects that will change the lives of thousands of ordinary Sri Lankans nears completion. Precious, safe drinking water for 3 schools in rural areas. Digamandala Primary School at Panama in Ampara. Alma Grey Mount College at Kandapala in Norelia. Diggalpura Primary School at Madirigiriya in Polonnaruwa. Dedicated towards building a prosperous future for our children. Gamata, for the people, by the people.
The country's main opposition party, the Samagi Jana Balawegaya, is facing much criticism today due to the participation of opposition leader Sajith Premadasa at the launch of Udaya Gamman Pilla's book, revealing the alleged masterminds of the Easter Sunday attacks. Now, a situation has arisen where some members of the SJB themselves do not believe that the opposition leader participated at the event. Meanwhile, MP Mujibur Rahman says that Udaya Gamman Pilla's book on the Easter Sunday attacks is purely a bankrupt political project.
මේ ගම්මන් පිල්ල මහත්මයා මේ ඇවිල්ලා කියන්න ඕනේ නෑ මේ සහරාන් තමයි මේක කරේ කියලා.
Gamman Pilla need not come out and say that Zaharan did this. Yes, we all know that Zaharan did it. There is no debate about that. But who gave Zaharan the facilities and the necessary support to do this, and who led him? That group being free is a threat to the national security and national unity of our country. Gamman Pilla is writing this book as a lawyer of the former intelligence chief who is currently in custody and under investigation. How can he be considered as a person who writes an unbiased book? That is why his book has no value. Sarath Weerasekara, who was sitting with him that day, said that it was Naufar Maulavi who did it. Then there is a testimony of Suresh Saleh. According to that statement, the mastermind is someone else. Gaman Pila comes and says it's someone else. All three of these people who are in the same camp say that the mastermind is a different person. That can't be. They are trying to push their own racist and religious ideas forward from a bankrupt political theory and use this Easter bombings as a basis to push it somewhere else. They are trying to revive their bankrupt politics. Racist and religious people, those who are in a state of despair, those who don't even have a straw to hang on to, are now trying to hang on to this and try to secure some success.
ජාතිවාදී ආගම්වාදී අය නන්නත්තර වෙලා ඉන්න උදවිය නැවත එල්ලෙන්න පිදුරු ගහක්වත් නැතුව ඉන්න උදවිය දැන් බලනවා මේකේ හරි එල්ලලා ගොඩ යන්න බලන්නේ.
උදේ ගම්මන් පිළ ගැන ඊයේ පෙරේද අපි දැක්ක කතා වෙනවා මේ මහමුලකාරයෝ ටිකම ගෙනල්ලා පොත පිළිගන්නුවයි කියලා.
එයාගේ පොහොට්ටුවේ දේශපාලනය කරන
The people who did politics with his clan, who made him president, who worked to bring him to power, and who also used this bomb attack after it happened to get political mileage, were the ones present at the time of the launch of his book.
මේ එතුමාගේ පොත රිලීස් කරන වෙලාවේ හිටි.
විපක්ෂ නායකතුමා මොකක්ද දන්නේ මගදී නැගිටලා කිව්වා.
විපක්ෂ නායකතුමා මගදී නැගිටලා ගිය එක ගැන ඉතින් විපක්ෂ නායකතුමාගෙන් තමයි ඔබතුමා පැහැදිලි උත්තරයක් අහන්න ඕනේ.
එතුමා සහභාගී වුණාද මොකද?
එතුමා සහභාගී වෙලා තිබුණා. මහලේකම්තුමා කිව්වනේ එතුමා සහභාගී වුණා කියලා.
The National Economic Forum 2026, organized by the Ceylon Foundation for Economic Policy Analysis, was held in Colombo yesterday.
The Ceylon Foundation for Economic Policy Analysis, organized by the National Economic Forum 2026, was held in Colombo yesterday, bringing together policymakers, economists, industry leaders and students to discuss Sri Lanka's post-IMF economic path. The forum's theme, Post-IMF Sri Lanka, Growth Model Reset or Debt Trap 2.0, underscored the nation's need for evidence-based reforms and inclusive economic planning.
There is a new paradigm for macroeconomic policy, and it has 5 pillars. What are those 5 pillars? One is the Public Finance Management Act, which has at its center the achievement of a primary surplus. This would now prevent the excessive budget deficits that we've had over the years. The second pillar is the Central Bank Act. The Central Bank is no longer able to lend to the government except in very exceptional circumstances. On the exchange rate, under flexible inflation targeting, as we probably know, the exchange rate is the first line of defense and it has to be managed flexibly. And the important thing is, in the past, as part of IMF programs, we have done stabilization quite well. But as soon as there's an election coming, we tend to loosen the spigots and go back to square one. But now, what is different this time, the fact that the new provisions, which I've just talked about, are embedded in law. Of course, Parliament can change the law, but still it's a more onerous process, and this is where everybody else comes in. Because we have actually managed to tie the hands of the politicians through these acts of Parliament, so that they don't create the excesses they created in the past. And we need to make sure it stays. Because when the next election comes, that will be the asset. There are 3 other elements in this new paradigm for macromanagement. Third is the Public Debt Management Act. Final thing is the Anti-Corruption Act and the implementation of the 15 recommendations of the IMF's corruption diagnostic.
The event aimed to bridge government, academia and industry perspectives while encouraging participation from emerging economists and students, emphasizing Sri Lanka's need for long-term, data-driven economic strategies.
NASA has shared the first high-resolution images of the Earth taken by the Artemis 2 crew as they passed the halfway point between the Earth and the Moon.
4, 3, 2, 1, booster ignition, and liftoff. The crew of Artemis 2 now bound for the Moon. Humanity's next great voyage begins.
Good roll pitch.
The mission's commander, Reed Weissman, took the spectacular images, NASA says, after the crew completed a final engine burn that set them on a trajectory towards our closest celestial neighbor. At about 7 BST, NASA's online dashboard showed the Orion spacecraft was now 140,000 miles from Earth and 132,000 miles from the Moon. Astronaut Christina Cox said the crew had a collective expression of joy upon being told of the milestone, which was hit around 2 days, 5 hours and 24 minutes after blast off. The first image, called Hello World, shows a vast expanse of blue, that is the Atlantic Ocean, framed by a glow of the atmosphere as the Earth eclipses the Sun, and green auroras at either pole. The Earth appears upside down, with the Western Sahara and Iberian Peninsula visible to the left and the eastern portion of the South America to the right. NASA identified the bright planet to the bottom right as Venus. Images were taken after the crew successfully completed a translunar injection burn in the early hours of Friday. The burn took the Orion spacecraft out of Earth orbit as the 4 astronauts aboard aim to travel the more than 200,000 miles to the Moon. Artemis 2 is now on a looping path that will carry the crew around the far side of the Moon and back again. It is the first time since 1972 that humans have travelled outside of the Earth's orbit. The spacecraft blasted off from the Kennedy Space Center in Florida, and the crew should pass around the far side of the Moon on 6th of April and return to Earth on the 10th of April, with a splashdown in the Pacific Ocean.
Protect our cricket.
We bring this report to you today against a backdrop where there are renewed calls from the general public for reforms at Sri Lanka cricket. They are calling for cricket in Sri Lanka to return to their winning streak because, frankly speaking, the people of Sri Lanka has had enough of this after decades of losing. On the 10th of September 2025, a proposal was submitted to the Special General Meeting of SLC, and this proposal was to constitute a Sri Lanka Cricket Advisory Council. However, at the time, due to external pressures, this proposal didn't see the light of day.
Shalan, to give you a breakdown of the composition of this proposed Sri Lanka Cricket Advisory Council, the proposed council would consist of 5 members. Here is where it gets interesting. The council's chairman should have over 6 years of experience as president of Sri Lanka Cricket and more than a decade of involvement in club level here in Sri Lanka. The 4 additional members who will form the executive committee should have experience of at least 10 years in club cricket, and they should also have executive committee experience. The mandate of this proposed Sri Lanka Cricket Advisory Council would be to oversee the executive committee of Sri Lanka Cricket, which is already established, and to provide strategic guidance to it.
As far as criteria is concerned, Jaimal, on the requirements to be eligible to be elected as a member of this advisory council, at the very least, I must say that it sounds suspect because all of this is happening against a backdrop where everybody knows that the current administrators at Sri Lanka Cricket, given the new Sports Act that was brought into play, are set to lose their power and be forced out of office by the end of this year. So this obviously raises the obvious question as to if they are now looking at the establishment of Sri Lanka Cricket Advisory Council as a workaround to continue to retain power. And of course, the facts do point in that direction, especially with the criteria that you read out that these members should have to be eligible to be a part of that advisory council.
Yes, Shalan. Now, reports suggest that another special general meeting of Sri Lanka Cricket is being scheduled to be held next week, which begs the question, is this proposal being revived once again through the back door? Is this just old wine in new bottles, as the saying goes? Because Sri Lanka Cricket is not a construction company. It is not an institution that builds projects. It is not an institution that is supposed to be generating profit or chasing commercial gain.
Jamal, Sri Lanka cricket is an institution that is supposed to dedicate itself towards the development of the game, to make Sri Lanka a hub for cricket in Asia and to propel the Sri Lankan cricket team as the top team in all formats of the game. However, if the administrators at Sri Lanka Cricket have gotten this wrong, well, it is incumbent upon those who can bring about true reform at Sri Lanka Cricket to make the right decisions. And to those people who can bring reform to Sri Lanka Cricket, who can bring change and who can push Sri Lanka Cricket towards victory, our message that we have continued to bring to you, we reiterate once again: make the decisions now before it's too late.
And on that note, we wrap up tonight's edition of Primetime News.
Thank you for watching. Take care, good night, and God bless you.